Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for a Battlefront 2 video I probably should have updated a very long time ago, but I just never got around to it. So today we'll be fixing that and ranking every single Galactic Assault map in Battlefront 2. The last time I did this was over 2 years ago on January 15th of 2018. Since then, the mode was of course updated with Geonosis, and more importantly, my opinions have changed drastically for a wide variety of reasons. The maps themselves haven't really changed all that much, but the game around it has changed in so many ways, so there are just several maps that don't really play out the same way they may have 2+ years ago. I will say there are no Galactic Assault maps I downright hate or just refuse to play, but there are definitely some I'm much more fond of than others. With this specific ranking, I definitely feel like it's way more subjective than any other ranking I've ever done, so when you get to the end of this video, I would definitely love to hear where our opinions differ, and I am expecting some scorching hot takes down in the comment section. Because the Scarif update is delayed by a couple of weeks, I have been taking all that extra time to catch up on videos I've had planned for a good while now, but just never had the chance to get them made. With that said, if it's something you guys would like to see, I am planning on knocking out some ranking videos I've never actually done. Things like hero skins, vehicles, game modes, and even the supremacy maps I've never ranked on this channel, which is actually crazy to think about that I've never done any of those. So if you guys do want to see my take on some of those ranks in the coming weeks, just let me know by leaving a thumbs up on this one. I probably should finally get around to some of those rankings. With that said, let's jump directly into my number 13 spot, which goes to Taka Dona. In my original ranking from 2 years ago, Taka Dona was actually second to last, so this map has moved down a bit. With that said, I actually enjoy this map more now than I did back then, and I'll explain in a minute how the map managed to drop in the rankings despite me enjoying it more these days. Taka Dona is a map that, now at least, I'm pretty indifferent to. If I see it in the rotation, I won't cancel or just back out, but I'm definitely never hyped to play Taka Dona in Galactic Assault. I really do think the 4 new sequel-era reinforcements helped freshen this map up in a major way, and the same goes for every sequel map. With that said, Taka Dona has just always had the same issue for me, and it's that the matches on this map are only very rarely satisfying. Because the Yavin Gunner is so good against ATSTs, the match ends on phase 1 pretty often, but even if the map progresses through all 3 phases, the entire match is usually over in like 3 to 5 minutes. If the First Order gets past the first phase, it usually means the Resistance team isn't working together very well, and phase 2 and 3 are usually very easy to take for the First Order, so even in matches that go through phase 1, 2, and 3, the match is usually completely done in maybe 4 to 5 minutes total, which usually leaves me pretty unsatisfied. I don't hate this map or anything like that, I just know that in over 2 years of playing this game, the number of times I've had a thrilling game on Taka Dona is in the single digits. Moving up to number 12, we have Jakku, which actually moved up from dead last to second from last. The reason that Jakku is no longer dead last like it was in my original video is because while I like Taka Dona a bit more these days, I like Jakku a lot more than I did at launch. I seriously disliked this map when the game first came out, mostly because it would end on phase 1 90% of the time back then. If you guys remember, Jakku didn't originally have ATSTs in the first phase, and because the Resistance has the high ground and a nasty vantage point for snipers, the Resistance had such a huge advantage it would only rarely pass phase 1, and if it did, it usually meant the Resistance was doing nothing to stop the enemy team, so phase 2, 3, and 4 would usually just be a steamroll. However, after some criticism from the community, DICE decided to add ATSTs to the first phase, and they are relatively balanced vehicles on Jakku, especially now. You've always been able to sit up top and pick them off with Disruptor Shot, but especially now that we have the Yavin Gunner who can shred ATSTs, it's a nice balance, and the first phase is usually a good fight now. The second phase is probably my favorite part of the entire map. It is really fun, especially with certain heroes, and it often gets pretty chaotic. Phase 3 and 4 are both just okay in my opinion, nothing special but nothing bad. Overall, even though I like it more than I did at launch, I'm still pretty indifferent on Jakku. I mildly like it, but it definitely does have a pretty big lead on Taka Dona these days, because if you do end up in a semi-balanced match of Jakku, certain phases can actually get pretty intense and be a lot of fun. Next up at number 11, we have Geonosis. I think most people are pretty hot and cold on this map, either they love it or they hate it. I'm kinda just somewhere in the middle on this one. It definitely has a lot going for it. DICE absolutely nailed everything with this map on a visual level, although that's true for pretty much any map you point to in this game. If you are someone who loves to snipe, this map is a dream, unless you're on the Separatist side and there's a Leia spamming her secondary fire from the back of the map, in which case, well, you probably know how that goes. All three phases really do require a lot of team cooperation, which as you guys know isn't super easy to come by in Galactic Assault, or any mode for that matter. I do like that the map gives you options. There are places you can go for just about any type of combat you're looking for. What I don't like about this map mostly boils down to spawns, especially on the Separatist side. It is very odd where the game spawns you, and you spend so much time just running back to position, which gets old really quick. The Republic also wins the vast majority of the time, and that's not just me saying that. Our community manager has outright said many times that their data shows the clones winning the vast majority of the matches. It's just balanced in favor of the Republic. The droids can easily win if the majority of your team is cooperating and knows what to do, but again, that's not even close to guaranteed or even likely. Overall though, I do like this map. I've definitely had some really fun matches, and others that have been less so, but it's still deserving of the respectable number 11 spot. At number 10, we have Tatooine, and honestly, there's not a lot to I can point about this map that I don't like. Any class is completely valid on this map. Lightsaber heroes and blaster heroes alike can both really excel, especially on the dark side, and I genuinely enjoy all three phases, although I do think phase 3 tends to be over really quickly, which makes that phase a little less satisfying than the others. None of the three phases are stone cold standouts to me. I think they're all good, but none of them are like my favorite phases of any map in Battlefront 2. I definitely prefer to play this map as the Empire. If teammates won't work together to take down ATSTs and you're stuck trying to do it by yourself, well, that is a pain if you're on the Rebel side. ATSTs can really dominate this map, which can be frustrating if you're the only one trying to do anything about it. Playing as the Empire, Tatooine is great. Playing as Rebels, it definitely varies match to match. I don't particularly like it when I earn a light side hero on phase 1, and if teammates aren't working on taking them down, well then I'm stuck with ATST spam until phase 3, and as you guys know, most heroes can't do much against an ATST without a huge risk. Lightsaber heroes are almost certain to get stepped on, and any blaster hero trying to take down an ATST by themselves is going to struggle unless the ATST pilot is just not paying attention to you. For the most part though, I do like Tatooine. The first two phases are absolutely balanced in a way that favors the Empire, but it does make it all the more fun when you can steamroll your way through all three phases, and I find that even in a match where the Rebels don't stand a chance, a match of Tatooine usually lasts a decent amount of time, at least long enough to be an enjoyable experience. Continuing on through our top 10, at number 9 we have Crait, which, just like Tatooine, is a map I mostly like and have very few issues with. I definitely tend to enjoy maps with a phase 1 like Crait a bit more than the others. I really like having an early phase with a vehicle-based objective, either an ATM-6 like Crait, an MTT like Naboo and Kashyyyk, or an AT-AT like Hoth and Endor. Every single map with that type of objective still needs to be ranked, which means they are all in my top 10, so definitely a bit of a trend there. I think the reason I like these maps a lot is that they usually guarantee the match will be a decent length, and also you can actually do something about the objective as just one person. On Crait specifically, if you focus on the ion disruptor and exposing the objective, unless your team is just not paying attention whatsoever, they will at least shoot at it if you expose it, although getting to the point where you stop it completely definitely requires some coordination. The first phase of Crait is mostly fun if you like to snipe, and even if you don't, it usually is fun enough in the tunnels. Although there are matches where I do wonder what on earth the enemy team is even doing. I think some players just get lost in the tunnels so you can't find anyone inbounds, which can get a little slow at times when you're just trying to find someone to shoot. Phase 2 is definitely one of the most consistently fun phases of any map in Battlefront 2, because there's just one objective to worry about. Most players will push it, even if they don't really know what's going on. Phase 3 is also pretty fun, although defending it can be frustrating when people just sit in the back and try to hold off the enemy there, which never works because all three objectives are completely exposed if you aren't holding the enemy further up. Attacking on Phase 3 is almost always fun, while defending kind of varies on your team. Overall, I really do like Crait. It's not a favorite map of mine or anything, but I do enjoy it. At number 8, we have Yavin IV, which is actually the map that has changed the most positions from my original ranking. 2 years ago, I had Yavin IV at number 3, and now it's number 8. I still like the map for sure, although I've definitely come to appreciate other maps a bit more. Really, I enjoy all 4 phases of Yavin IV, and when a match actually plays out through each of the 4 phases, it's a really good time. This map definitely does suffer from getting stuck on phase 1 a lot. Whenever there's more than one objective, especially when there's 3 like Yavin IV, there are definitely going to be a lot of people not knowing what they're supposed to be doing, which isn't the map's fault, I guess, but it's just a fact that Yavin IV does get stuck on phase 1 pretty often, and one player only has so much influence over the match when there are 3 objectives to try to take care of. I think Yavin IV is a very well-designed map, and like I said, when there are balanced teams and the match has the chance to play out, it's always extremely fun. Yavin ranks near the middle at number 8, which I think is pretty much right in line with how I feel about it. Moving up one more spot, we have the highest ranking sequel trilogy map, Starkiller Base. This map has always been my personal favorite of the sequel trilogy maps, at least for Galactic Assault. Phase 1 is perfectly fine, it's very fun, and for the most part is pretty balanced, which is more than can be said for a lot of phases of a lot of maps. With that said, Phase 2 is definitely the highlight, as the middle portion of Starkiller Base is one of my favorite map phases in the entire game. Phase 2 is extremely fun to defend using heroes like Bossk, Phasma, Kylo, and Iden, and is perhaps even more fun to push using heroes like Han, Luke, and Leia, and Finn also really has a chance to shine during Phase 2. It is an excellent phase for hero play, and I just love racking up kills on those stairs, which I know can be a little cheesy, but it's just so fun. Phase 3 is probably the weakest phase of the map, although it's perfectly fine. I just find that Phase 3 usually ends really quickly, and I also think some new players must just get confused while defending on Phase 3, because this is one of those phases where you'll be facing off against a full lobby, but one of the 2 objectives will have 0 people trying to defend it, and I can't even begin to explain the amount of times I've been thinking, where is everyone? Are they just lost in the back of the map somewhere? Still though, Starkiller Base is very good. I always look forward to playing it whether I'm defending or attacking, which is the sign of a very good map in my opinion. Getting very close to our top 5, at number 6 we have Hoth. This is a map that definitely falls within the category of me really liking it, although I would say the maps that I love start with number 5. Hoth is usually fun from start to finish. Phase 1 is definitely built for sniping and playing the objective with the heavy. I am more of an assault guy in most cases, and that's a classic and also do quite well during this phase. It can get a little annoying getting hit with a strafe run over and over again, and sometimes you'll just get sniped out of nowhere, but that's just part of playing on an open map. My favorite parts of Hoth are Phase 2 and 3, which in my opinion are both really great. Phase 2 is almost always a close battle that gets really thrilling because the 2 objectives are very obvious and people usually know what to do, or at least sort of know what to do, so it gets hectic. Phase 3 can struggle a bit from some players not knowing where to go, but I do find that 2 of the objectives usually get taken really quickly, and then Phase 3 turns into a desperate fight for whatever the last objective standing is. This map is also very great for hero gameplay. Pretty much any hero can be viable on this map, which I love. This is another map that is very fun to both defend and attack, and Hoth comes in just shy of our top 5 at number 6. It took us a while to get here, but we are finally into our top 5, and kicking it off is Endor. Like I mentioned, this map and the 4 that are coming up are my absolute favorites. These are the maps I downright love. Endor is just one of those maps I'm always down for. As long as this map gets past the first phase, it's always a really fun time. The only thing that holds this map back from being even higher is the fact that it does get stuck on Phase 1 somewhat often, which is always a bummer. I will say getting stuck on Phase 1 happens way less these days compared to launch. I think people have wisened up at least a bit. For a long time there was a 50-50 shot if you were on the rebel side that half your team would just run straight down that middle hallway towards the center objective over and over again, which always baffled me. You would think after dying in the same exact way 15 times in a row in the same match, you might try a new strategy, but back in the day it was definitely something you had to deal with. It's better now. I definitely think most players have figured out how to flank on this map, but it is something you run into occasionally. Outside of that though, the first phase is fun, and assuming you get past it and the walker is hijacked, the rest of the match is super fun. Phase 2 is just so great for kill streaks and is one of the rare maps that you can be successful with pretty much any unit. Like Geonosis, there are places for pretty much any type of combat you may be wanting to engage in. Phase 3 is just an absolute meat grinder, but usually it's the fun and exciting type, not the frustrating kind. There are enough places to flank that it's usually a really good time, and I just really enjoy Phase 3 even though it is pretty hectic. Endor is one of my favorite maps. I'm always happy to see it pop up in the rotation, and that's why it's among my top 5 maps in Battlefront 2. Moving up to number 4, we have Kashyyyk. Listen, starting with this map, I really don't have anything I don't like about the rest of these, so I have a bit less to say. Kashyyyk is just a map I have a good time on from the second I spawn in to the moment the match ends. It never suffers from being cut short. Honestly, I've only seen the MTT go down on phase 1 like twice, and if that does happen, it was well earned. Most of the time this map makes it through to phase 2, which is usually pretty intense. In almost every match, one of the two objectives will be destroyed really quickly, and the rest of the phase turns into a fight to destroy the second one. If you make it to phase 3, well, this is just one of my favorite parts of any map. Phase 3 is also fun, hectic, and intense, and really is open enough to avoid ever being too much of a choke point. It's a pretty fair layout for both sides. This map is also great for kill streaks with any unit. Hero kill streaks on this map can be very fun, and I've also been able to get some excellent reinforcement kill streaks on this map as well. The map is just set up for that sort of thing. No real complaints with this map, just like the next three. Kashyyyk is actually a map that has jumped up in my ranking considerably. It was number 7 last time, but as the game has progressed, I've just liked this map more and more, to the point where it's now secured a spot near the very top. Now we're moving into our top 3, the favorites of the favorites, and I imagine it's no surprise this map is so high up on my list, but Kamino is up next. Look, phase 1, 3, and 4 of Kamino are all exactly like what I just described the final phase of Endor as. All of them are absolute meat grinders, but they are the fun and exciting type, at least the vast majority of the time. Phase 2 is much different from the rest of the map. It's much more open, but is just as fun. I don't think I could choose a favorite phase of Kamino. I love all of them pretty equally. I'd say if I had to choose, phase 3 is the one where I find myself getting some of the best clips and lots of really high intensity moments. Phase 4 is also a really good time if the match is even somewhat evenly balanced between players. I don't really have all that much more to say about Kamino. It's a killer map. You will never see me backing out from a map like Kamino, and for me at least this map was a no-brainer for such a high position on today's list. The runner-up position for my map ranking goes to Death Star 2, and it's pretty fitting that this map comes in at number 2. This map is just so unique. Pretty much every engagement you're going to come across is going to be pretty close quarters, with only a few exceptions during the second and third phase. Although if you want to stay just close quarters the entire time, you absolutely can. The Death Star 2 is just incredible for saber heroes. Those close quarters engagements make heroes like Darth Vader pretty invincible unless you get stuck in a door, which has happened to me on this map if I'm being honest. Really though, I love Death Star 2, I wish it didn't get stuck on phase 1 so often, but that's just the way it goes. It happens, and it's not a majority of the time or anything like that. Death Star 2 is an elusive map for me. I rarely get to play on it, it just always escapes me in the rotation, but when it does come up, I always enjoy it immensely. Speaking of maps I always enjoy, my number 1 spot goes to Naboo. Both my number 1 and 2 positions stayed exactly the same from my original ranking, and it's no wonder. Both Naboo and the Death Star 2 have been standout maps in my opinion since day 1. Naboo was the map that DICE decided to promote their entire game around. When the Battlefront 2 Alpha and Beta were around, Naboo was the Galactic Assault map they showcased. They wanted everyone to play on this incredible map, and I think that was a good decision. It definitely got me hyped. This is my favorite map for just about everything. Phase 1, 2, and 3 are all extremely fun in my opinion. I know the last phase is super hectic, but that's just what I love about it. My top 3 or 4 spots were pretty much instant picks for me, and it was all a matter of arranging them, and Naboo keeps its crown as my favorite Galactic Assault map in the entire game. Well guys, that is going to do it for today's video. If you like this upload and want to see me put together some of the rankings I've never gotten around to, leave a like to let me know, and if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe. Also, I'm going to try to remember to mention this in the future, but if you are someone who watches every video anyway, be sure to turn on notifications. Like I've said once or twice in the past, views have been great on this channel, especially lately, but there are always occasional days where YouTube decides to break, and the notification bell is pretty reliable even in those times. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.